Hi, I'm Jennifer Johnson. I work with Thurston County Public Health and Social Services, and I'm going to talk to you about our Common Sense Gardening program. For the last several years, we've come out into the garden centers and talked to retail staff directly. We're not able to do that this year, and so we are providing this training video to talk to you about the safer products that you have on your store shelves. When customers ask, is that product safe for me? Is it safe for my pets? Is it safe for my kids? We know that you want to provide the best customer service possible, so we are here to help. All of the garden centers have a series of Common Sense gardening guides and our integrated pest management prescriptions, and these are located in a large rack somewhere in the store. If you have a chance to do some reading, great, or just refer your customers. These are free resources that we offer to the community. The other thing that we offer is a pocket guide that outlines the different problems that people in our area typically deal with in their garden. Things like powdery mildew, quackgrass, dandelion, and it just gives you some of the basic precautions that you can take when dealing with these situations. The reason why we care about what folks do in their gardens is because we all drink groundwater in Thurston County. Anything that gets put onto the ground, things like pesticides and weed killers and fertilizers, can actually end up in our drinking water. The other concern with some of these weed and pest control products is that they can be harmful for kids, pets, pregnant people, and elderly folks. So really just about everyone. We can track these pesticides into our home where they end up in our house dust. And so one of the things that we want to let folks know is that there are lots of ways to manage garden pests in our area. Throughout this whole presentation, I am not trying to highlight any particular brand names. I'm just trying to offer you products that are available on store shelves. And I know that you have them because I just went and did some shopping. In addition to my work with public health, I am an organic gardener, so I know firsthand the challenges that we all deal with in our gardens. The natural, safer stuff does work, can be effective, and should be applied properly. So, first of all, I want to talk about how to properly read a label. If it says that it's OMRI certified, OMRI stands for Organic Materials Review Institute, and it just tells you that that is safe for organic gardening. Oftentimes, the organic products actually break down more quickly in sunlight, and that's what makes them safer, is that they don't last a long time in our soil, and that provides the protection for our drinking water. Now, I'm not trying to tell you that this means that it's a perfectly safe product. You always want to follow the label directions directly, but we do want to say that if it's safe for organic gardening, in general, it's going to be a safer product. So we're looking for signal words like warning or caution. Caution tells you that that product has some concerns, and then warning tells you that it has slightly more concerns. And then danger and poison tell you that that product is considered dangerous. And so, if at all possible, helping guide people towards choosing products that say caution and warning over products that say danger or poison, this is going to do a lot towards keeping your customers in our community safer. Let's start with bugs. There's actually a lot of simple things that you can do to reduce bugs in your garden. Things like planting flowering plants is really helpful for attracting beneficial insects. You probably have heard ladybugs, praying mantises, lacewings. All of those beneficial insects can be purchased at local garden centers. The other tools that are available are things like the safer soaps that kill insects. There's also neem oil. Neem oil is an example of a broad spectrum pesticide, which means it will kill all the bugs once it's applied. So even though it is considered safe for organic gardening, it is something to be very aware of. I wanted to feature Bacillus thuringiensis, which is naturally occurring bacteria. This particular product is for caterpillars, but BT can be used for controlling mosquitoes in ponds, really effective, and I know many of you carry this in your store. A horticulture and dormant spray oil can be very effective for preventing insects on trees, and this is something that needs to be used over winter to deal with those bugs before they can emerge. Anytime you're dealing with insects, the truly safest way to deal with them is by trapping them. This keeps them out of the garden altogether. Wasp and bee traps. This one's for spiders and other insects. And if you are using some sort of bait, please make sure that that bait is found inside of a trap so that it can be contained. That's just going to do a lot to keep the whole community safer. Another way to deal with bugs, specifically aphids, is just a really high-powered spray of water. Aphids are not very large and they're not very smart. And so getting them off of the plants by spraying them off can be a really effective physical control. Of course, we all know that one of the biggest issues we deal with in the Pacific Northwest are slugs. So Sluggo is an iron phosphate blend, and Sluggo Plus has spinosad added to it so that it kills even more bugs. Earwigs, cutworms, sow bugs, all these different insects can be controlled with Sluggo Plus. For me, weed control is the biggest issue that we actually deal with. Now, unfortunately, there's no quick fix to weeds. And what we encourage is that folks recognize that the weeds are really trying to tell you about the soil conditions and maybe the things that are not going so great in your garden in general. One of the best things that you can do is utilize a long-handled weed tool. Something like a hoe, all kinds of long-handled weed tools, and as I'm sure you know, there are those long-handled weed tools that actually have the sort of pincher that will grab an entire taproot. That can be a really satisfying way to deal with weeds. I will say that when pulling weeds, you need to put something in that plant's place. And so, for example, if you're pulling weeds out of a lawn, make sure that you have a bucket of grass seed with you so that you're replacing all of the weeds that are pulled out with the plant that you do want. When we think about weed control products, there are actually a lot of products that have been developed recently that I've noticed that are out on the market. So I don't have a lot of personal experience with these. Anything that says listed for organic gardening, you know is going to be safer than a different product. Definitely need to still follow label directions and keep out of the reach of children. These are much safer than any kind of broadcast spray of an herbicide. Utilizing a spot spray is going to be more effective and safer for our community. These products utilize fatty acids, basically soap, or in the case of this one, it's iron phosphate, and I'm really excited to try them myself actually. So another weed control product is, you can see this has been well used on my farm. Basically any type of weeding torch. It's really important to educate your customers that the weed torch is not going to incinerate the entire weed on site. It takes 3 seconds to burn the weed enough that all of the cell walls rupture, and in the next day or two that plant will die. Another thing that can be really helpful for bugs is diatomaceous earth. Several years ago, we had a flea outbreak in my household. I used the diatomaceous earth and I was very hopeful that this natural stuff was going to work, and it worked like a champ. So I have since been talking about this product with a lot of different store staff. Diatomaceous earth is completely safe, completely not toxic, although it's very fine and so really easy to breathe it deeply into your lungs. People need to wear a mask or something if they're using it. I've heard of people using it all around the outside of their home as a perimeter so that bugs can't get through and into their home. Really helpful product. Now I know that a lot of questions come to you about how to have the best lawn in the Pacific Northwest. Keep in mind that unless we deal with the underlying issues that are creating a less than ideal lawn, you can add chemicals to that problem, but it is just going to return unless you actually change the growing conditions. One thing that we recommend for lawns is that they be aerated regularly, and then adding a little bit of organic matter, something like compost. Make sure that the grass is still poking up above the compost, and then you can overseed. This seed blend I actually saw, I've not seen this before, but this one says an overseed lawn mix. In other words, it's specifically designed for folks that are doing just what we're talking about. They've aerated and now they're overseeding with an adapted grass blend. I also have folks choose grass that is adapted for whatever growing conditions they have. Shade, sun, or a very active lawn, meaning that kids and pets are running joyfully across it. So choosing those that are developed for their specific growing conditions and something that is going to do well in the Pacific Northwest ensures that they'll have more successful grass growing experiences. The other big thing that folks work on is fertilizing their lawns. And what we recommend is a slow release fertilizer. When you're looking at the label, so 222, that's an indication of what components are in that fertilizer. 2 parts nitrogen, 2 parts phosphorus, 2 parts potassium. And when we turn it over, we find with this one that all of those 2% nitrogen, they're considered water insoluble, which means that they can't just run off of our lawn and get into lakes, rivers, streams, and Puget Sound. The other thing that I recommend for folks is that they choose a lawn fertilizer that does not contain bug control or weed control. We do not recommend the use of fertilizing and weeding at the same time. In fact, if you have a lawn full of weeds, there's no need to fertilize that lawn. And if you have just a few weeds, the best way to deal with those weeds is either pulling them directly and then reseeding with a little bit of grass seed, or spot spraying. You can choose one of the ones that we've talked about today, or at the very least choose something that can be spot sprayed rather than broadcast wildly over the area. Weeding is going to be much easier to deal with if you're not watering those plants that you don't want. So utilizing things like drip irrigation or soaker hoses that are specifically designed to water only the plants that you're trying to grow. This goes a long way towards reducing your weeds, and it can also help to conserve water. Preventing weeds, of course, is the easiest thing to do. So utilizing things like weed cloth and mulch, things like wood chips, lots of different mulching products available in most of the stores that I've been in. Of course, some folks want to use compost as a mulch, and that can be great, but that's not going to prevent weeds. Weeds love that sort of environment, and so putting down compost to increase the organic matter while at the same time utilizing a mulch to prevent the weeds from coming through. We do recommend that you mulch right up to the plant base, but then leave just a little bit of space around the base so that those plants can really thrive. Another tool that we recommend, especially for new plantings, is a floating row cover. And this can go a long way towards reducing the insect predation that small plants undergo. All of these tools can be helpful for your customers to reduce the amount of chemicals that they're using in their gardens, and can help us protect our drinking water, as well as protecting our lakes, rivers, streams, and Puget Sound. These products need to be stored out of the reach of children. All of these bug, weed control products are considered hazardous, so they can't go into the regular trash. They need to be taken to Hazo House, which is located at the Thurston County Waste and Recovery Center off of exit 111. Hazo House is open the same hours as the Waste and Recovery Center, from 8 to 4:45 every single day, and they take unwanted hazardous materials for free disposal. So please let folks know these sorts of products cannot be trashed in the regular garbage. We'd like to thank the Department of Ecology for providing funding for this through the local Solid Waste Financial Assistance Program. And we also want to thank Urban Futures Farm for letting us come out and shoot on this beautiful day. I just want to reiterate that we are not recommending the use of any specific products. Our goal here today is to help you help your customers choose safer products that are going to help keep our community safer. Please do contact me if you have any questions, concerns, if your Common Sense Gardening rack needs tending to, or if you'd like one of the handy dandy pocket guides. We appreciate your assistance, and thank you so much for being an essential worker in this challenging time. We're very grateful for your service. Thank you.